it's time to add some healing power to our Reaper Dungeon Dweller party, and we're going to be going for fairly almost monochromatic paint scheme for this Cleric. We're going to stick to mainly blues and work in a little bit of brown as well. The concept behind the paint scheme for this figure was the idea of a traveling cleric, so one that's more suited for dungeons and walking the roads instead of a stereotypical priestess, healing priestess in white robe. So we're going to keep the colors kind of muted. We're not going with very bright colors, something that kind of blends in a bit more to the background. For the cloak, we're sticking with our blue colors. We did a blue-grayish color on the robe part, and for the cloak, we're just going to go for a darker blue. And we're sticking with more of your Oxford blues and your shadow grays, which are got a bit more gray in them, as opposed to a very bright blue, a medium blue, or ultramarine blue. The colors we're using here are kind of on the border between blue and gray, and depending on what colors we pick for the highlight, that will affect what color the base coat really gives off. So we're going with a glacier blue, which has obviously blue in it. We could have picked a light gray or something like that, which would have moved these colors more into the gray range. So when you have a color like this that's on the borderline, you can go either direction with it. Hopefully intentionally, sometimes unintentionally. My intention was not to add a wash to this figure, but after laying in all the colors, I decided I needed a little bit more shade here and there. And while I call it a wash, it's thin to that point because it's a darker color. We have to thin it more than we did with the highlights. It's more of a precision layering, just going into those deep folds and just adding a little bit more color and a little bit more shade. We did mix in a little bit of dark Prussian blue here because I was losing our blue tone a little bit and I wanted to re-emphasize that blue. In addition, to keep it more in the realm of a blue tone, finishing it off with a little bit glaze of dark Prussian blue, very, very thin, 2 light coats. This not only gives it a blue tint, but also my Oxford blue paint was a little bit old, getting a little bit separated, so it didn't really come out that smooth. So the glaze will help to blend it in a little bit better and smooth out any roughness. My initial concept for this figure was mostly browns and blues, but I couldn't really find a place to work in too many browns, so I decided to go with a brown color for the armor. And it's always fun to experiment, just try something new, so I'm adding a little bit of red to the initial shade layer, just to give the armor a little bit more of a unique look. Not a huge amount of red, we don't want red armor, but just a hint of it. We added a little bit of red in the initial undercoat, and now adding a little bit more red to the wash for some shade. Charred brown this time, which just has a hint of red to it, not very much at all. But then we're going to finish it off with a glaze of red and skin ink. So once again, just a hint of red to make the armor a little bit more interesting and to try out something new. The shield on this figure was a bit problematic. I kind of really didn't like the style of it. I ended up painting the emblem on the shield gold, which I really couldn't think of what else to do with it. But it is a brown color, and it works well with our reddish copper brass armor. But to offset all that gold on the shield, we need to add a little bit more yellow on other areas of the figure. So some of the trim detail and a few of the little odds and ends like the gloves we're painting in a similar color to try to take a little bit of the emphasis off that gold shield. For the big knob on the center of the shield, decided to paint it as a big gemstone, which admittedly makes zero sense. But what this does is it brings some of the blue that's used on the other areas of the figure and brings it into the shield. So we have the blue color creeping into the shield, and we have the gold color creeping in to the rest of the miniature, which helps really blend those two different objects together. This is very basic old school gem painting here. It's simply you just pick a color, your base coat, in this case medium blue, then you shade in the opposite direction than you normally would, so towards the sky, and then you highlight towards the bottom, the opposite side, and finish it off with a little bit of a sparkle white dot in the upper shade area. And this is all done in real time. It's not edited, so it took me about 2 minutes to quickly do this. It is sped up slightly, so you don't have to get bored and watch the whole thing, but it's just a matter of, like I said, highlighting, doing the reverse, highlighting towards the bottom and shading towards the top, and occasionally going back to the base coat to help blend those areas in a bit better. It's not quite wet blending, it's, let's call it wet layering, if that makes sense. But easy peasy, 2 minutes, we're done with our gemstone. To help bring that gold color around the figure more, we're going to paint just a simple line on the figure in the back of the cloak and on the top as well. Just to add a little bit more yellow, just like we did with the blue on the shield. And if you're terrible at hand painting like I am, I added little dots to where I wanted the lines to go, and you'd use those as a guide. Basically just connect the dots. Start thin, and then you can expand them as needed, but first establish a line and then flush it out with your brush. And there we go, a fairly simplistic paint scheme. All we have are 2 different shades of blue, and we have a few different shades of brown. The browns being very neutral, usually, and our blues are somewhat muted. So I think she does a fairly good job of possibly blending into the crowd. Still not completely happy with the shield emblem. It just takes up a little bit too much of the miniature. It really stands out with those big thick crests, but really couldn't think of anything else to do with it. And it's worth saying that I did gloss coat the gem with a semi-gloss after flat varnishing the entire miniature. What I hope you get out of this is that you don't always have to use a whole bunch of colors on a miniature and have a whole lot of contrast in your colors to come up with an interesting paint scheme. You can keep your palette of colors extremely narrow and just mix up different shades of one color and still have something that comes out fairly decent. So all we have here is just blues and browns essentially, and that's it. We didn't run the whole color spectrum gambit here at all. But that is it, and as always, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Torgo! Yes, that was the name, though now I am Torgo the White.